Good evening and welcome to the Monday, January 23rd Board of Education meeting. This is the first of two meetings to hold public input on Dr. Freeman's proposed 2017-2018 budget. There will be another meeting tomorrow night here, same time at 7:30. Just to let people know the schedule, January 30th there is scheduled to be a Board of Education special meeting to approve a budget to move forward to the Board of Finance along with proposed bonding. The budget has to be submitted to Town Hall for publication on February 14th. The Board of Education will present our budget to the Board of Finance on February 16th. There will be a public hearing at the Board of Finance on March 7th. And then ultimately, the Board of Finance controls its schedule. It will make a decision on the budget to move forward to referendum, either on March 9, March 13, or some other date of their choosing. The date for the referendum is going to be April 18, 2017. So I've asked Dr. Freeman to just give us a very, very brief summary of what is in his proposal to the Board of Education, just so that we're all working on the same page in terms of understandings. But then the rest of the night is up for public input, public questions, public comments, thoughts, and we can touch a little bit on that in just a minute. So Dr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Goss. I will move very quickly through this slide deck that I have here, but before I do that, I do just want to let the public know that the presentation I'll be referring to, but not repeating tonight, was made to the Board of Education a week ago tonight, and that full presentation is available on GCTV. The slides, which I will be moving through very quickly tonight, are available on our website and a budget section of our website. This slide presentation, as well as the full budget and other resource materials, are all available on our website at that location. So again, without repeating the groundwork, I will simply start by saying that this budget is a reflection of the vision and the mission of Guilford Public Schools. It is a reflection of the priorities that this board has approved for our work moving forward. It builds on the current initiatives that are in place currently this year. And it is built upon a set of budget assumptions. We don't simply come to a budget each year and look for what we had in place last year and ask for more. We look to build a safe and healthy environment. We look to maintain the instructional focus that we have been working on sharpening. We look to extend and improve opportunities for all students. This is in no way a status quo budget. We are not looking to stand still. And we are looking to be creative with our resources and to repurpose resources rather than simply ask for additional resources. This year's budget, we anticipate to be 65 students smaller next year than we are currently this year. I do add a note of caution, however. This time last year, I was projecting an enrollment that would be 79 students smaller than we were the previous year. And in fact, we have grown. We are currently 24 students larger than we were at this time next year. So we offer this projection with a note of caution as I do so. And this year's budget request looks like this. The budget that sits before the Board of Education tonight and before you tonight for your comment and for their deliberation is a budget of $59,059,136. That's an increase over today's current budget of $1,152,345, or an increase of 1.99%. To put that in some context, that is the lowest budget request, the lowest budget increase request that I have ever brought forward. So to look back at the last years of budget requests and approved budgets, coming in at 1.99 recognizes that we know that we have to be efficient. It is the lowest increase that I've ever requested. And last year, I'll just point out that my initial proposed budget started at 2.85% increase. This Board of Education reduced it to 1.99%, 1.9899%. It was further reduced by 1.73, and ultimately going through the referendum process, we finished with a 0.69% increase, an increase of approximately $300,000 over last year's budget as we move into this year. The budget is built on efficiencies. We start by looking at how we can use existing resources or save on existing resources. I want to point out that the single greatest efficiency this year is due to a series of negotiations that this Board of Education has entered into. We have 5 different bargaining units in this school system, 5 different unions with whom we work, and the board has worked diligently over all of those contract renewals to shift all of the employees in the school system to high deductible health plans. Health insurance benefits that meet the needs of our employees and their families, but that does so at a lowered cost. This single efficiency recognizes a significant savings in this budget. We're proud of the work that we've done bringing down the cost of medical benefits in the school system. We work very hard on the salary line every year. Salaries represent 65% of the monies that we spend in the school district. When you add those medical benefits, it's about 80% of every dollar that we spend in the school system. So we have worked very careful to be efficient in salaries. This budget includes reduced teaching positions, reduced paraprofessional positions, restructured and repurposed teaching and para positions, and we have worked very hard to hire efficiently. So when an experienced teacher moves out high on the salary scale, we look to bring in somebody who's going to have commensurate skills but comes in at a lower salary to replace that person. And I want to compliment our principals. They have worked very hard to keep the costs of supplies and materials down in this budget. There are, however, significant cost drivers. Salaries are increasing this year because of contractual increases. Our capital we are intentionally increasing our capital spending. We reduced our maintenance budget by $250,000 last year. We want to begin rebuilding that maintenance budget so that we take care of these buildings. We have service contract increases that are coming as systems at the high school are coming off warranty, as other buildings continue to age, and some of those services support the needs of special education students in our district. We have tuition increases to support the needs of special education students in our district, and we have transportation increases, some of those associated with special education. These 5 items alone are increasing by $1.6 million, but the overall budget is only going up by $1.1 million. We've worked very hard to mitigate and offset the impact of these cost drivers by looking carefully at those efficiencies. But here's what I want to highlight for you tonight. This budget also includes investments. We do not intend to stand still. We do not intend to simply give you next year more of what we've provided this year. We expect every year to be better than we were in the past year. We expect every year to extend and expand the services that we provide to our students here in Guilford. This budget includes investments in the area of mathematics coaching. We have had literacy coaching in our school district for years, and we've done so to great effect. We want to offer more math coaching to more of the teachers who touch the students directly around the mathematics area. This budget will provide for mathematics coaching in all grades K through 8. And we do so by repurposing, but we also need to put more money there. This budget includes the instruction to begin at our high school in the International Baccalaureate program this September. For the first time ever in September, we will be offering International Baccalaureate courses at Guilford High School. We are excited about that opportunity, but this budget includes some investment in that area. We're continuing to expand our special education services. We now have programming in district to support the needs of students that goes through pre-K, through grade 4. We have it in place at Baldwin, and we have extended those programs at the high school as well. This budget puts programming in place here at Adams to complete that sequence so that we have programming in place K through age of 21 actually to support more students here locally in Guilford rather than sending those students to outplacements and paying tuition for those outplacements. This budget includes a restoration of cheerleading at Guilford High School, and it includes an opportunity to begin offering a swim team for both the boys and the girls at Guilford High School at a shared cost. I want to be very clear, this does not pick up the full expense of a swim program here in Guilford, but it does allow us to begin moving forward with a swim program here in Guilford schools. And this budget includes investments in capital. There are capital projects, particularly at Baldwin Middle School, that are significant. I'm going to go through these very quickly. These reiterate the investments. We will be able to provide math coaching in grades K through 8, and we will continue the literacy coaching in grades K through 6. This doesn't eliminate the work we've done in literacy to provide for math. It builds on that model. This budget supports the International Baccalaureate rollout, as I mentioned. This budget supports special education programming here at Adams. This budget includes a restoration and extension of our athletic offerings. And separate from this operational budget, but at the same time, we will be requesting a capital bond to do important heating and cooling work that needs to be done at Baldwin Middle School. That has been deferred for many years. The work does need to be done, as well as some district work at a total bond request of $3.5 million. The staffing impact is that we're looking to make no changes to administrative positions. We're not adding or subtracting administrative positions. This budget does include extending one administrative position from 10 months to a full 12-month position. This budget does include reduced teaching positions, roughly the reduction of one teaching position spread across multiple locations. That is in response to enrollment at the elementary level, planning and world languages that needs to be done at the high school level, the math coach that I spoke to, and a part-time school psychologist position to support the special ed programming already in place in Baldwin and coming online here at Adams in September. We're looking to reduce paraprofessional positions in this budget, and we are looking to increase custodial positions. Since our high school has come online with more square footage, and as we've taken responsibility for 595 New England Road, previously called the Science Wing, we have not increased custodial staffing, and we're concerned that we're taking care of these buildings that we have. And all of that is to continue to move forward. There are no wholly new initiatives, but as I said, we're not standing still. And all of that is to continue what I believe is an incredible return on investment. I again want to reference our website and the budget section on our website. There's a very short 8-minute video that I would encourage you all to watch. It talks about the academic performance that our students present compared to the financial investment that we make. Very simply, we invest at almost exactly the state average cost per student, but our student performance by any measure is never average. It is always above average. We are regularly ranked among the top districts, top high schools, top performing students in the state. We put in the average investment, but we reap a much greater reward. So I would encourage you, I'm thrilled with the turnout tonight. I would encourage you to be part of the dialogue. I would encourage you to stay involved. I would encourage you to visit our website. And we appreciate your interest and your support as the board deliberates this budget moving forward. I know that wasn't 5 minutes, Mr. Bloss, but it was close.
It's the best we can expect. So the practice, same as it generally is. Just please come up to the lectern and give us your name and address. And we're not going to put any artificial time limits on anybody. I just urge everybody to be cognizant that there may be other people that want to speak, and so maybe try to hold your comments to a reasonable length of time for now. And then if we want to circle back, we can always circle back after people have had a chance to speak. So somebody's got to be first. Who would like to be first? Don't be shy. All right.
Hello, everybody. Hello, administrators and Dr. Freeman, Board of Ed. Again, I want to commend you and thank you for that presentation tonight. I think it was quite thorough and quite helpful for all of us. We're here representing, we have a large contingent of swim parents again, and we wanted to make our presence felt again tonight, and we'll be back again tomorrow night as well. We've been here before. We've explained to you our position. And I think maybe the best way for us to do this tonight would be to put this in perspective of, say, the longest swimming event that's on a high school schedule, 500 freestyle. As parents, we entered the meet. We put in our paperwork. We decided that we wanted this to come forward. Dr. Freeman, by presenting us the stipend for the coaching, has stepped up onto the block to enter this 500 freestyle. And now I think as Board of Ed, we're hoping that you will take the plunge into the pool. And if you can make that first effort, maybe 50 yards down the pool, make one turn coming back, we can turn it over to the Board of Finance. After Board of Finance does their thing, and we can then bring it back into our hands and eventually turn it into the most capable hands of our swimmers. And if we can do that, I think that we will prove that we have the right things going on here. Thank you again for considering them to add the stipend for the coaching. We understand that it's a small amount. It's $12,000 out of your $1.145 million budget increase, or budget proposal. And we understand that there is going to be some need for us to step up to the plate as well. So that's why I think we described it as this 500-yard race. It's not a sprint. It's a very long race. It's 20 laps in the pool. And we understand that this is just a start for us, and we really look forward to bringing it home in the future. So please consider keeping Dr. Freeman's stipends for the swim team in the budget, and we will hopefully get the budget passed for you as we go forward. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? I think, Dr. Freeman, your proposal is that there would be a minimum participation number in order for this?
Yes.
So can maybe, yeah, please. Can you just summarize what that is?
Yeah, so my thinking around the proposal is that the district would pay for the cost for both a girls and boys head coach for each of the swim teams. That is only a portion of the total cost. It would leave the cost for pool rental, transportation, officiating to be borne by the parents who participate in the program or by a booster club that was established to support the program. The district has precedent for that with two other programs, both the ice hockey teams and the crew teams, where parents are asked to make a contribution to offset the cost of those programs. Along with that, I set that there would be an expectation of at least 10 students participating on each team. In fact, Mr. Macenti, Mr. Jarvis, and I have looked at the restoration of cheerleading and all of our programs to sort of have that 10-student expectation. It doesn't make sense for the district to be investing significant dollars if there isn't a certain expectation of student participation. I do that, one, to sort of protect the district's investment moving forward, but also to be reasonable to the parents. If the parents are being expected to cover the other 3/4 of the cost of this program and only 5 students sign up, I think we're creating a situation that is untenable for those 5 families. And so I would expect at least 10 families to participate. If the cost was to be distributed as a fee across those 10 families, it won't be easy, but at least it would be reasonable, I think, and then we could grow from there. But it also protects the board's investment in all of the athletic programs. We have no other athletic programs currently that are enrolled with fewer than 15 students. So Mr. Macenti, Mr. Jarvis, and I felt that 10 was a fair number to sort of start, and we will apply it both to the restoration of cheerleading and both of the swim programs.
So at least for now?
Yeah, we think that's great.
Okay, that's
we
right.
have the boys program, as you well know, is a co-op currently with Brantford. That will be coming to an end at the end of this year. We do have a girls program, as you know, was a one-man band situation. My daughter was a freshman on that team this year. Had a great season, and we really did want to thank the folks at Brantford for all of their assistance. My daughter was the only one to make it to the state open championships between the Brantford and Guilford teams, and the Brantford coach wore a green shirt in her honor at the meet, which I thought was fantastic. So we understand the limit of 10. We have a spreadsheet. We have parents in the room tonight. We have 8th graders that are coming up on both the boys and the girls program, and I think that that's quite a fair number.
And to the point, Brantford is fully aware of my budget proposal as it sits in front of you tonight. We will keep Brantford apprised of our progress. We're neither leaving them in the lurch, and they're also, they understand that if for any reason this doesn't move forward, they're willing to protect our students who are currently performing with them. Mr. Hernandez and his swim coach and Brantford have been fantastic through this whole process.
Agreed. Absolutely, and then we should, that needs to be out there for the public to know as well. They treated us like we were one of their own, and that's fantastic.
And they are encouraging this progress moving forward and protecting our relationship with them should we run into any challenges or roadblocks.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or?
Not at the moment.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Somebody else?
Hi, my name is Matt Espinoza, 301 South Union Street. I just got the text that I have to pick up my son since swim practice, so I'm going to make this very, very quick. As a father, I'm fairly new to swimming, but I can tell you in the last 3 years, the positive impact I've seen that it has on a young adult has been incredible. As a principal from another district, I think I understand the positive impact that a swimming program can have on a student, the school, and a community. So I thank you very much for including in this budget and sincerely hope it stays there. So, like I said, I have to get my son from swim practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Other questions? Please.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to express my appreciation for your time and allowing us to participate and show our support for a Guilford High School swim team. Tim Hansen, I'm from 985 Durham Road here in Guilford. I've been a resident of the town for about 12 years, and I'm a YMCA Stingray parent of 2 boys in 2nd and 5th grade. I think many of the important points have probably been highlighted to you in recent weeks or months, but I'm very happy that funding has been included in the proposed budget. I'm sure at this point some of you are saying, we get it, swimming is important to us, and it's important to us as parents, it's important to our kids, and we're a passionate group, I think. But it's kind of difficult to express the impact that competitive swimming can have on a child's development if you haven't experienced it personally or been witness to it. I was lucky to be a student at Brantford High School at a time when the swim program was at its strongest. It was directed by Hall of Fame coach John O'Connor. Some of my best high school memories centered around my 4 swim seasons and the successes that we achieved as a team. Swimming is a sport that fosters amazing discipline of hard work and dedication. And unlike many other sports, you're able to directly experience the rewards of the grueling hours of practice by lowering your personal best times. There's not only a sense of team camaraderie and common goals, but there's a measurable meter of your own progress as an athlete. In addition, there's a sense of pride that comes with being a member of a team, representing your school and your town. Many kids, I think, don't excel in traditional team sports, and this is a really great alternative. It builds self-confidence, and it's the ultimate exercise for physical fitness. We know that competitive swimming is correlated with high academic achievement. The town of Guilford is always ranked among the top school systems in the state, and that's one reason we're all drawn here to this great town. What's interesting, as many of you probably know, that all of the top 20 public high schools in Connecticut have swim programs except for Guilford. Swimming made me personally a better person, a better student, and I want that experience to be available to my kids as it is to so many of their friends and relatives in other towns. So thank you again for your support.
Thank you.
Good evening. Oh boy. My name is Bob Gould. I live at 5 Spinning Mill Court. I've got 4 kids, 2 of them swim. I've been here before you in the past. I wanted to bring a picture. This is the current Stingrays team. You can see it's gigantic. It's a huge team, and it's gotten bigger every year that my kids have been swimmers on it. It's exponentially bigger. It seems that every year it's gotten bigger, as has the Guilford Racquet Club team, which has gotten exponentially bigger as well. So when you say, well, we're going to put some money toward the team and you have to self-fund, I don't fear that there won't be enough people to swim. I think it's the issue is whether or not the growth can be accommodated by the program. I think there'll be plenty of people involved. One of the concerns that I have as a parent, and I think that one of the concerns the town will have, is it fair for self-funding for all families because it's an expensive sport? Unlike hockey, where you know hockey's expensive because you see these hockey parents walking around with these duffel bags. It's enormous, right? And so you see these hockey kids, and they've got these huge bags, and swimming kids, and all they've got is this tiny little bathing suit and a towel and goggles, and it looks like it's a really inexpensive sport, but the reality is pool rental and buses and insurance. All this stuff's expensive. And so that is a concern. But we're fantastic fundraisers. And we've just had a fundraiser to help some kids move on to a training program. One of the things that I've learned is that, swim parents really stick together. And it's not just the kids who work together as a team. It's been really nice getting to know some parents that I have not known up until now, and developing new friendships. But there's a really tight camaraderie among the parents and the families that are involved in this program, and they're really helping each other out. And so there is that concern, but I think that's something that we'll have to just get through it. And I want to thank the parents of some of these older kids whose kids are going to be swimming soon. And you guys are really paving the way, because my kids are young. By the time my kids get up into high school, this team is going to be thriving. I have no doubt about it, and my kids are little. So, to the older parents here, thank you for, taking this step, and to the board, thank you for taking this step, because this is groundwork for my little kids that are coming up. And I have no doubt that once we get through this, this is going to be a thriving program. So in closing, what I will say is this. There's going to be some battles coming up over this budget. Every year when there's a budget, there are battles. There's $12,000 in here. And I would ask that you please do everything you can to fight to keep this $12,000. It's not a lot of money. It's a symbolic amount that we really would like to keep in this budget. We'll take care of the rest. Just try and keep this amount in there, and let us kind of show the town that there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of good that can be done with that money. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adam Kamen, and my son's 8th grade going into 9th. I think that each parent is up here to advocate their kids swimming, not only about swimming, but it's about sports. My son has met his best friend and all his friends because it's about sports and the friends he has met throughout these years. So if your daughter plays soccer, if your daughter has played cheerleading or basketball, I'm going to advocate you to support this, because it's about the friendships they have. So it's continuing this. That's why each parent is willing to dig deep to continue these friendships, to continue this sport. So I think it's more of a broad thing of continuing these relationships. And plus, swimming is a great thing for them. It's the healthiest exercise. So I could say that my son not only wants to go to swimming, but he wants to see his friends. So if you swim, if you played any sport, you know why they want to go. I mean, it's a big commitment. And so I just want to say that.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Henry. I live at 438 Little Meadow Lane. I have 3 boys, one in the elementary school at Lakes, and one here at Adams, and one that's a freshman at Guilford. I also am a swim coach. I coach at Yale University. There are many, many reasons why I can tell you why I believe that swimming has such great assets, not just by the team. It's the things that these kids learn, the work ethic, setting goals, self-confidence. I believe that in any sport you can find a role in which you can contribute, but I think in swimming, when you improve and when you do it as a group and when you do it as a whole, I think that kind of attracts some of the kids that may not be able to be successful in team sports. Also with swimming, you can start late. There's a lot of people that start in high school and blossom. I get called throughout the year by employers that want to hire my students, not only because of their grades, but because of the intangibles, the ability to work under a deadline, multitasking, the ability to figure out solutions to complex issues. I know that I'm at Yale, but I believe that there's a lot of similarities with Guilford and Yale in that we're striving to be the best. And when I look at the rankings in the state, and Tim stole a little bit of my thunder, but I looked at the top 50 school districts, and if you take out the tech schools that don't have athletics, Guilford is the only school district that doesn't have swimming. Dr. Freeman, the $12,000 is awesome. It's incredible. And I do believe that we will grow. But Board of Ed, I know that there's a process, and I know that you have a lot of tough decisions to make. I'm begging you, trust that we're going to do everything we can to take this momentum and build it. And as they say in a famous movie, build it and you will come. I think that we can do this without a facility. I think that there's enough pools in the area that we can be resourceful. We've problem solved to figure out where the home meets can be. Branford has been amazing. My son is working on the co-op team right now. He loves it. The coaches there have been great. The facilities have been great. We have nothing but great things to say. However, there's something to be said for representing your school, and there's something to be said for being in your hometown and wanting to be a showcase or wanting to do your efforts and do your best for your town. So thank you very much. I know I've rambled too much, but I appreciate it.
Thank you. Others? Well, why don't I suggest, are there board members that have questions of either Dr. Freeman or any of the administrators, and we can maybe start that a little bit. But anytime, this is a public, this is for you all, so if somebody at any point says, gee, you know what, I really want to say something, just come up. We're here all the time. Well, it seems that way anyway. But you know, we cede to you tonight. This is your meeting. So, do board members have questions?
I had some that I sent. I didn't bring a copy. I didn't think we'd get this far tonight. I don't know if you have my questions. I can't
Yeah,
remember
we
any
do.
of them.
We've got most of them. We have some written responses to.
If there's anything that's appropriate to go over now.
So I have, should be enough there to go around.
Yeah. I don't know if we want to take any of these as conversations. There's mostly
they're
short
visuals.
answers, right, but any one of them could extend into a lengthier conversation.
Three more.
Do you have a few more, Linda?
I don't think that one's attached.
So, Ms. Renner, do you want to maybe highlight a couple of your more thematic ones?
Thematic ones?
Yeah.
Sure. We could talk about, one of the biggest reductions, the savings that we realized was the medical expense line due to the
Right.
switch to the high deductible plans. And I was interested in finding out the financial calculations behind that.
Okay, so we met with our insurance representative from Milliman and members from the finance office of the town and the personnel director of the town. And we went over a bunch of different scenarios, working off of Anthem's projection as well as going off of a method that was established by the former finance director, using a number of months of claim history. But each of the scenarios that we ran all came out very close. So we opted to stay with Anthem's projection. I spoke with Joe Spurgeon the other day from Milliman, and he said that he didn't think that going out and looking at claims through December was gonna take much of a change, but he was gonna look at it this week for us to see. So I think these numbers are pretty solid. I don't expect them to change much from where we are.
Just so people understand, we are projecting a $500,000 reduction in our health benefits line across the district this year, which is, I think, the first time ever, at least in my memory. It's a very positive development, really, and appreciate the cooperation of the faculty, the various unions in moving in this direction, because it probably is the direction of the future and what most districts are moving in. But it is going to, that gives us a little, that leads us to the position where Dr. Freeman is able to talk about some of these other things with still a roughly 1% savings in our budget from that one change alone.
Correct. So, Mrs. Brenner, the insurance number has in the past been a moving target, and doing it this early in the cycle, I think because of the changeover and because of the stability you've seen in our monthly usage, that we have the unusual event of Joe saying that he's got some high confidence. It's not unusual in past years for this number to be a little bit conservative, but this year we think that it's fairly close.
Okay.
And we certainly don't expect any change before we need to pass this off to the Board of Finance in February.
Just so again, for the public's benefit, one of the struggles that we have in putting together a budget like this is we are talking about a budget that now would be implemented in starting in July of this year, but we're not even halfway through our existing year when Dr. Freeman is presenting his proposed budget for next year. So it is, and we're budgeting before we know what our state aid, if any, is going to be, if they're going to budget at the level that they've said they were going to, or if they're not. We just don't know any of those things yet. So there's a little more uncertainty in the budget preparation in the last 2 or 3 years than there has been historically.
I would suggest that our enrollment experience is adding to that. We looked really carefully, and we expected, like other districts, to see our enrollment declining. And the fact is that our enrollment has not been declining. Over the last 4 years, we've in fact remained very stable. And that was a little bit surprising. And so, yes, we're trying to be a little cautious in our budgeting this year.
Others? Mrs. Brown is here. I wonder if we can talk a little bit about special ed. One of the most difficult areas to budget is special education. I actually tripped across an interesting article today from back when the federal law requiring special education was passed. Congress said it was going to fund special education to 40% of the local education, the local schools' expenses. And in fact, the statute does say that Congress is allowed to authorize up to 40% of special education funding to the towns. You take
it in a heartbeat.
Listen, we would take 38% right now. We take, right. It's in the low single digits, really, between Title I and Title II, right? And they don't do anything on the excess cost grant. And so it's a minimal.
We have IDA.
Right.
But minimal compared to the overall cost of special education.
Right. So, we actually are fairly often critical of Hartford in education funding for not baseless reasons, by the way, but this is something that actually was a federal law that the federal government has simply never followed through on and never kept its promise. But just tell us a little bit, maybe you could come up to the lectern and just tell us a little bit about what's happening with budgeting on special ed. Some of the increases I know on the slides were for special ed issues. Tuition, by the way, when we say tuition in a budget, it's outplacement students that cannot be educated locally because of their individualized education plan are educated at another facility. And we've got some increases in this budget for that. I guess one question is, how confident are you, since Dr. Freeman's budget was prepared? Are there any changes, either positive or financially positive or negative? Special ed transportation is an issue, obviously. And also, we have invested money in district special education services with the expectation that we were going to be able to reduce outplacements, and in fact, that experience has borne out, I think, particularly in the earlier grades. Maybe you can start with that. Just talk about what our experience is with that.
Sure. So just for the benefit of the public, as you know, since I started here about, I guess it's actually almost 4 years ago now in February, coming this February, one of our main goals and focuses was to really try to boost the programs in district and also boost our staff's ability to deal with students who have more severe disabilities. Before that, many of the students, or I guess most of the students, were automatically placed out, oftentimes at a very young age. And really the intention of an outplacement is for students to go out, receive the services they need, and then come back into the district, because federal law dictates that we always educate students in the least restrictive environment and obviously the least restrictive environment is their public school, and we try to provide supports and services to ensure they're successful and that they have access to general education curriculum. Of course, there are times when an outplacement is appropriate for many different variables and reasons, and so when we first came here and sort of put the plan together, I understood that Dr. Freeman's goal also was to increase the students that we were able to program for and service in our district. And so when I first started, they had just begun a program at Lakes, which was the Bright Connections program, it's coined, and it's basically services students who are either on the autism spectrum or display behaviors or needs that we can program through an ABA type model. So that was one of the first programs we started, and as you know, as we all know as parents, our kids get bigger, and as they go up the grade levels, we then expanded that program into Baldwin. And so it's basically since the year Doug has been here, and so it's only 2 years old, but we worked really hard to increase those resources. And then as Dr. Freeman's budget shows, we're going to move that program to Adams next year. And Catherine and I have been working with Cliff and with Dr. Freeman around the facilities, the environment, what staffing we would need, what those students' needs are, because some of the students coming up are quite complicated in terms of what type of programs and supports they'll need. And then at the high school, we have other developed programs. We have the TLC program, we have the Crossroads program. Those programs are really for students who need an alternative high school experience, whether it be schedule-wise or further emotional supports, things like that. So essentially, over the last few years, we've been monitoring our tuition and transportation. It's still kind of going like this. When I first came here, I think we had talked a little bit about 3 to 5 years before we'd really see like some real significant leveling of what we can typically expect. This year, we only have, I believe, 2 or 3 students aging out for the 17-18 budget. The following year, we have 13. Last year, I believe we outplaced 3 students, and we actually didn't outplace them. They were unilateral placements and or settlement agreements. So that's a little bit more information than maybe you want me to get into right now, but that's certainly something, if you have further questions about it, or parents or the community do, I'd be happy to talk to you more about that. So this year, so far, we have not outplaced a student. We have a couple of scenarios. Mr. Blast, you were asking what sort of in the frying pan, so to speak. We have a couple of scenarios where we have had 2 students that unilaterally placed. That means the parents chose to place them there and are asking for us to fund the placements. We have 1 student due to come back in January. The parents are now asking that they stay there. That's not something that we'll most likely agree to, but I can't get into a lot of information about this. But, and then we have another student that I'm working around a settlement agreement with. So that's sort of the landscape right now. The other piece that's really important to know and to note is that actually with Linda Trudeau's really, really hard work on this, she's come up with a much more, I don't want to use the word predictable, because we always have kids coming and going and we cannot predict that. Or we have a child who all of a sudden, really has some significant needs that we weren't anticipating. But in looking at our excess cost grant and looking at what our tuitions are and looking at exact tuitions of the exact placements, we're able to better and more closely estimate what we need to budget. So Linda and I worked on that together. She came up with the spreadsheet, and I gave her all the information to put in it. So I provide the data, and she provided the formulas and the spreadsheet. So we're much more confident that we can get much closer to budget what we know. So I hope that helps. It's a lot of information, and there's a lot of different aspects to it. So if you have questions, certainly I'm happy to help.
All that being said, we were very confident with the tuition line we put in this budget about 5 weeks ago. We are less confident with that budget line as we sit here tonight. And so as the board deliberates this moving forward, we may in fact be recommending an increase to the tuition line for you as you consider this budget moving forward.
Sorry, just one other piece I wanted to add, and as you all know, with the landscape in Hartford, we're also struggling with our state agencies who have now really are not able to support the schools at all, so it's now falling on our communities. So our communities are now being forced, and even the commissioner of DDS and DCF had said, have told parents and told the school systems, we're not funding placements. You really have to go back and talk to your schools about it and ask your schools to do that. So the communities will be picking up those burdens.
So while we continue to feel really good about the work that we've done in district, and while we have fewer outplacements today than we did 3 years ago, we have moved into a very volatile stage right now and may not have a budget line for tuition next year that represents those needs, and may need to request that the board increase it before you approve this budget. Again, as Jenny indicated, we do expect that in the years moving out, you will begin to see that we continue to bring that overall number down, but right now it projects to be a little bit higher next year. Not higher than it was 3 years ago, but higher than we thought it would be 5 weeks ago when we put the special ed numbers together initially.
And I know I've shared this information with you before, and I didn't bring it tonight because I didn't realize you would want me to talk to it. But just to get sort of a sense, absolutely, our very, very highest number of outplaced students are really the 18 to 21-year-olds, then the high school kids, then the middle schoolers. And I think right now we have with the student that's sort of up in the air, we'll only have 2 elementary students placed out.
Which sort of shows that improvement.
That is a
Yeah.
major change.
That
That is
shows
a
the
big
change in
change.
demographics that we've been working towards.
Okay.
Right. And I can certainly
Yeah, it's
provide that
definitely not.
current information to you as of tomorrow if you'd like. I could quickly send that out to you.
Yeah,
I wish I had brought it, I didn't think of it, sorry.
No, that's a.
We can follow up.
Mr. Sands?
Related to this is the issue of special ed transportation. And as we looked at the budget and we've looked at the past numbers, the correlation between the number of outplacements and the increase in the special ed transportation line doesn't seem to be a very good correlation. Could you explain a little more as to why that number goes up?
I mean, I can try to.
Well, I'll start.
Okay.
Some of the students we've kept in district still require special transportation. So transportation will not, and in fact, if we run buses now that transport students who have visual impairments, who have mobility impairments. So you're right, you won't necessarily see transportation coming down in a direct ratio to tuition.
Did you have something to add to that? Or?
Not to the transportation, so
Okay.
if you're talking about transportation, we'll finish that, and then I have another comment to add.
So in the packet that I just handed out to you, there is a comparison of the special ed transportation for this year's budget versus last year's budget. So it's in the packet that I just handed out to you. So it shows that part of the increase is due to the in-town transportation. And part of it is due to the allocation of how we allocated the excess cost grant. As Ginny mentioned before, we changed the method that we were budgeting. And when we did that, we also changed the allocation to closely reflect each student's allocation of the excess cost grant. And that changed the allocation between transportation and tuition from the way we did it the previous budget to this budget. So that's the other part of the increase
you're
for
saying.
special ed transportation.
So essentially less of that cost grant is being appropriated to
To
transportation.
Right, more
I
of
see.
it went to
Okay.
tuition.
Okay.
That, so,
And I should, by the way, I know the weather's really awful tonight. If people feel like they need to get up and walk out, that's fine. Nobody's gonna get offended.
And you had also asked Mr. Glasswell two things. I just wanted to reemphasize that actually the district has placed, over the last 2 years, has only placed one of the students out that have been placed out. So all the rest of it has been either unilateral placements or settlement agreements. So I just wanted to emphasize that. So our work is really to work collaboratively with the parents and provide them the students within a program in their community where we feel that they can be served best. And we honestly typically feel that.
Well, I think that's been our reaction,
We've heard that
from I think all of us on the board have had input from parents that say, look, all other things being equal, I'd rather have my child educated locally, right? I don't want him to take a 45-minute bus ride or longer and then not be around local friends and so forth. So no, I think that, we were committed and supportive of the program 4 years ago when we started, or 5, and I think it's really met our expectations.
Right, and I just wanted to, the question number 4, I believe, about the numbers in 16, 17, 17, 18. I'm still sort of collecting that information, but currently, approximately, I'm just, rounding off a little bit here, but we have about 88 kids in our programs that we've developed over the last almost 4 years, so.
And to be fair, not all of those would be
No, not even
outplacements,
close.
but some portion of those would be outplacements.
Probably about
if we weren't-
20%.
If we weren't currently offering these programs in-house.
And each outplacement is anywhere between $100,000 and $200,000, so 20% of that times, the number would quickly be going up. And the outplacements are getting more and more expensive, and there's no control over that. They're all private schools, so they make their own rates.
There is much conversation around this topic outside the borders of Guilford. This is being discussed in Hartford currently. This is being discussed in a Supreme Court case. And I mean, there's a lot of attention to this right now. Guilford is not unique in how we have struggled to provide services to these students in a way that is fiscally manageable. We're not alone in this challenge.
And one thing that'll be really interesting, Dr. Freeman and I have talked with our attorney, and she'll be joining the board this spring, well, March. To also share her perspective on all of these pieces, because it's interesting sort of to also get it from a perspective, one step removed from the school district, but work so closely with us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had just a curiosity question looking forward. We're budgeting approximately $130,000 in capital improvements to Adams to account for those students moving up. So looking forward, I mean, we have a brand new high school looking forward to 2020. Is that something we'd have to, are we equipped to handle that?
Yep.
Okay.
The high school knew what the program was coming and what we needed, and they basically have all the programs they need. At this point, after we add the Adams program, we really don't have any other special education programs or environments that we would need. We really have a very full, cohesive pre-K through 21 program in district. Some of those programs may shift a little bit, in terms of what they're servicing and their purpose, but for the most part, we won't be asking for more staffing or developing new programs. This is sort of, we have what we need at this point.
We started at the two extremes. We started at the elementary and the high school and worked our way, and Adams next year will be the last piece to put in place to complete the continuum pre-K through 21.
Any other special ed questions for the moment?
I think it would be helpful, Ms. Trudeau, if, just for the public's edification, if you could explain how the excess cost grant program works and what the history over the last 5 years has been in terms of the state honoring this agreement. Because one of the problems we have with the budget is that the state has mandated all this stuff, and yet they keep backing away from funding it, which leaves us to fund it. And we're talking real money here.
You want to start with the definition of excess cost?
Do you want to talk about that? For either one of you, it doesn't matter.
Well, Linda has the real numbers in front of her, but I can give you a general sense of what's happening, similar to sort of the DDS and DCF that we're dealing with. Excess costs. We never quite know exactly what level they're going to fund us, and they use a formula. They do give us a sense, and there's a website that we can go on and check to get an idea of what the sense is. So usually what we try to do, Linda probably being a little bit more conservative than me, is pick a number somewhere. I mean, at one point when I was in this position, quite a few years ago, they were funding at like around 75, 78%, and now we're much closer to a 70% funding.
Let me start with a definition or an explanation
Okay,
for those of you who aren't sitting on the board. So each year, the Guilford Schools calculates the cost to educate one student. We're required to calculate that cost. The state tells us that anytime the cost for any individual student reaches 4.5 times of our individual cost to educate a student, that they will pick up everything in excess of that 4.5 times.
Percentage of
that.
Well,
The
they're
mandate
supposed
They're
is-
supposed to pick up all of
mandate
it.
is
The mandate is
100%.
that they'll pick up 100% of that excess cost. So it is sort of a stop-loss policy on educating those students with those special needs. The reality is that the state has never funded 100% of the excess cost. They used to fund in the ballpark of 80%, and in the past we used to budget expecting 75%. This year, we are only expecting to get from the state 70% of what they will owe us in those excess costs. And the fact is, if we receive 70%, I'll be pleased if that's what we get. So every year, as we budget the costs moving forward, we anticipate a little bit less support from the state in that area of budget impact than we have received in past years. And so it's been a dwindling stream of support from the very beginning.
Does that answer? Okay.
more so than the
Excuse me.
$200,000 that we put in extra for tuition.
Yes.
Right.
So, comment.
Well,
If you're
and
done.
can you talk a little bit about the conference call? Ms. Sullivan was on a conference call today with the Education Commissioner, among others, that offered some input anyway.
Some, I'm sure it's not a shock to anyone that reads the paper or listens to any news that the state is having some financial issues, and money that the towns typically get is being cut. And it's not typical, I understand, to have that happen halfway through the year. And their explanation was that they weren't sure what kind of bad shape they were gonna be in, which is hard to sort of understand. So they did talk about that. And they also talked about what we were just speaking about, the tuition reimbursement for special ed. And unfortunately, in terms of budget planning, that information will be available in March.
Right, we
Yeah.
won't have that. To Mr. Bloss's and Mrs. Sullivan's point, in addition to the excess cost grant that we just described, the other significant grant that we receive is the educational cost sharing grant. And we were informed just at the end of December that the monies the state had allocated to that for this current budget year were reduced by $170,000. We don't know what to expect next year moving forward. So that's a situation that we're collaborating with the town. We are figuring out how to absorb that reduction in this current budget year and needing to think about what impact that might have for planning moving forward.
But before, though, that anybody, we don't want to give anybody the sense that there is an asteroid heading toward the educational system.
In fact, we've done well.
The state
We're very
doesn't,
closely monitoring it.
and the state doesn't give us that much money.
Right.
So this is one of those areas where people then in the kind of the inner ring suburbs are at much greater risk than we are. Because we really don't get very much from the federal government. I think it's a couple of percent, and from the state, I think we figured out, what, 8% approximately of our budget. So, you know, it will be okay. It would be better if the state kept its word. The only thing, I will say one positive thing about the state. Remember that locally, we don't pay anything for teacher pensions. That is all a cost borne by the state of Connecticut. Now, they aren't particularly, those teachers and administrators who are looking forward to their retirement may wonder whether the state is going to fully fund those pensions, and I think that's a very fair question. But under state law, the pension funding for teachers and administrators is the state's responsibility, not local taxpayers. So that we do hope that they do keep their word, but it is grossly underfunded right now, and so they are working on it. I understand. I hope it works. So in any event, the budget cuts will have some impact here, but they will not have the impact in Guilford that they have in some other places. I think that's.
Oh, that's true, and we don't expect that they will stop the improvement. I'll say again, this budget was built with those assumptions in mind, and with the exception of a minor adjustment that we may need to ask for around special education, this continues to be a budget that invests in improvement. It invests in athletics, it invests in math coaching, it invests in special education support, and we're still going to be one of the very few international baccalaureate high schools in the state of Connecticut next year. So we can manage these difficulties and not just be okay, but continue to be better than we were.
Any other questions? Please, yeah, go ahead.
Are you done? I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you had a question for me, no?
No, I don't have a special.
Oh, no, I'm done. No,
Okay.
I'm done.
Yeah,
You're
but I
done.
had
Thank you,
I
Jim.
have a,
Thank you.
I have a comment, I guess. And actually, it's to the public. First of all, I guess, as far as questions, just because we don't have a lot of questions right now, doesn't mean that we haven't gone over this closely and asked a lot of questions, had a lot of meetings about this already. So this is the opportunity for the public to provide us with their comments and questions about the budget. And it's fantastic to see so many parents out, in support of swimming. It's a larger turnout than we usually get for these meetings. We have another one tomorrow night. But it's also the opportunity for people to tell us what, they don't want in the budget, how to cut it. We hear about this, on social media and other places, right around budget time in April. All the things we should have cut, but we don't hear about it now. Last year, on the first vote, the budget turnout was about 14% of registered voters in the town, and the first vote went down by 41 votes, which forced us to make this. We made a real tough effort, or a strong effort, to try to avoid impacting classroom instruction, and that's always our thing that we're going to try to do first of all. But keep in mind, we had to move some things around, some things that we've added back into the budget, in particular the capital line. I'm happy to see that that's moved up again.
Yep.
It's the thing that, if you look at the history of the town, when the budgets didn't get replenished as much as they would have liked, or they failed, then those are the things that get pushed off because they don't directly impact the students. And then people complain that we don't maintain the buildings. And so these are things that, not just this round, for the parents out there, whether you have swimmers or just, kids in the school, it has to, you have to put it on your calendar every year and get out there and vote. It's the Tuesday after spring break. I know that's hard. And it's not just for the parents. These sessions are for everybody in the town to come in and tell us, not just what they want added in, but, are there things that they don't want that, we hear that our town is over-administered. That's one of the slides that's embedded in your presentation. I'd like to see it pulled out and put in there. We went over the statistics, benchmarking against other communities, and really we're not over-administered. Our per-pupil spending is very reasonable compared to what it is around Connecticut. We go through this very closely and try to make sure that these budgets reflect the best value for our students, and we try to pass them. And it's a self-interested plea because we spend, I don't know how many hours on this, and then if we don't pass it the first time, then that's 20 hours of meetings for the next round, and so we want to pass it the first time because we think it's a good budget. Once we get to that point, we're going to have our chance to also weigh in as far as the board if there are things we want to move around or reduce. But it's sort of a plea because we have a larger audience here to just understand the process and to stay involved with it, I guess is the thing I would say.
Actually, Dr. Moore, to one of your points, the site improvement line that was reduced by $250,000 last year, we've only put half of that amount back in this year. And again, are really proud of the work that we have done to these buildings. Again, I would encourage community members to go to our website. There's a second video. This one's a little bit longer. It's about 20 minutes long, but it talks about the investments that we have made in the school facilities over the last 6 years. We're proud of how we've brought these buildings back and don't want to create that maintenance deficit once again.
I'm glad nobody's here asking for a swimming pool.
It's all planned out.
One of the other interesting questions that was asked at the conference webinar that I listened to, someone posed a question about construction, school construction, and the answer was, if you've put your shovel in the ground, you're all set, and if you haven't, not
Forget.
so much.
Well, we're past the
So,
shovel in
which
the
is
ground.
good.
Yes.
For us.
And I should say, by the way, for the people who supported the high school building, the building is now done, and it came in just about $2 million under budget. And so that is money that will not get spent, it will not get bonded, that is never going to be part of the town's debt service. So we appreciate the confidence people showed in us, but we kept our word that it was going to come in under budget. Mr. Ailes from the Board of Finance is here, who was very active in that, and Ms. Kessner is here also, who was very active in the project in the beginning. So I want to thank them publicly, but your confidence was rewarded and with an outstanding school, significantly under budget and on time, which for public works projects is not always the model.
And the word on
So,
the bonding there,
I think he was saying we have to take a short break to change the tape. Sorry.
Get your crowd back under control.
Yeah, I got it. That's all right. Okay, we're back after a short break. Let me just, again, invite members of the public, if there are members of the public who have any comments or questions, having heard. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Just one very brief question. If you can refer to staffing and the math and literacy coaching, how does that break down into the buildings? Was that an add to staffing for the current budget?
Sure. The question was about the math coaching, and is it an increase to staffing, and how will it be distributed across the buildings? It is a net increase, but we are repurposing some of the existing positions. Currently in the system, we have literacy coaches, one at each of the elementary schools. There are 2 positions assigned to Baldwin, and there is a math coach position assigned at Adams.
Can I make a suggestion? Tell what are math and literacy coaches? This is one of the misconceptions that we get every year. We go through the same explanation of what they do, and I think...
So math and literacy coaches, instructional coaches as we speak about them, they are in district, they are our employees, and they are committed professional developers just for our staff members. So rather than taking our math teachers and sending them out to conferences once every 2 or 3 years and expecting them to be better, a math coach in district is committed to those people who teach mathematics, generally in a specific building, and that coach works with that individual just like a swim coach does, takes the teacher from where they are today, works on existing challenges or opportunities, works with real data from her or his real classroom, gets to know his or her students. It's embedded professional development that takes place on site with the real students and the real conditions that surround each person. We've had literacy coaching in place for 7?
This will be our 7th year.
We've had literacy coaching in place for 7 years now. And while we are proud of the performance that we put up in both math and literacy, you'll see a distinct difference in our literacy performance from our math performance. We perform well in both, but we perform better in literacy. And we believe that part of that is because we have afforded this consistent, local, embedded professional development in the area of literacy. It's now time to extend that to mathematics as well. So what we are doing is, because of the new schedule that's put in place in Baldwin, it used to be that every teacher in Baldwin taught English language arts. It took 2 coaches to service all of those folks. With the new schedule, the teachers are specializing more in subject areas. We can service the language arts teachers who are now delivering that instruction at Baldwin with only one of those positions. The vacant position will be pulled back and used to become a math position. We currently have a math specialist in district who essentially has been doing curricular work for all of the math teachers in grades K through 5. We're going to reduce that. Half of that position is going to remain a specialist position, but half of that is going to be pulled into the math ranks as well. And because at the elementary level we still have more literacy instructional time than math instructional time, we will have next year 1 full-time literacy coach in every elementary school. We will have a half-time math coach in every elementary school. We will continue to afford literacy math coaching at Baldwin, and we will we'll continue the math coaching at grades 7 and 8, but we'll also have a math coach that will be able to deliver coaching for the 5th grade, and then one who will pick up to 6th grade as well. So we will have seamless literacy instruction K through 6, and we will have, coaching, and we will have seamless math coaching K through 8 in the district. So yes, it's some new investment, but it's also some repurposing of existing positions to get the coverage that we believe we need.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Other thoughts? Anything? Any of the board members with questions or thoughts? No, I just did some quick back-of-the-envelope kind of calculations, which are always dangerous, but I think I've done it right. Dr. Freeman's, we all talked about the tax impact, and I think, Dr. Moore, you really hit on an important point. Arguably, the single most important vote you will make in Connecticut, in Guilford, is the vote on the annual budget. Arguably, with the greatest day-to-day impact on your life, on the education of your children, on your roads, on your parks, on your open space, well, and on your taxes. But that's what I want to talk about for just a second. Dr. Freeman's proposal would add about $20 a year in property taxes for every $1,000 in dollars of property taxes you pay. So in other words, if you pay a $3,000 property tax bill, it's about $60. A $5,000 tax bill, it's about $100. And everybody who's on the board has heard me be very critical of the property tax system. I still am critical of the property tax system. We are grossly over-reliant on it. But as my mom always said, if you can't say something good, don't say anything at all. So the good thing I'm going to say about the property tax system is that it is in effect subsidized to a degree by the federal government because it's deductible. And so whatever your marginal tax bracket is, your $100 in tax increase is actually $70 or $75 or whatever it is. That's a hidden subsidy that nobody talks about, but it is nonetheless a very real subsidy. So that's the scale of what we're talking about here. I think we all know that for some people it's very, very tight. We get that. We understand. That's why we have come in with these kinds of numbers that Dr. Freeman has come in with. But I do want to emphasize also that Guilford has done something to protect our most vulnerable citizens that no other town in the state of Connecticut has done, and that is the senior citizen tax freeze. Right now, about 10% of our households have their property taxes frozen because of their age and their income. So those are, and that, you and I were at the last meeting of that committee. It is in great shape right now. It is not close to the authorized maximums. So I think we have a high level of assurance that people in the tax freeze program are going to continue to be based on their age and income. There are income limits to that. So that is all, I think, very positive. And I think we do, the issue always is in crafting a budget, what benefit do we want? What are our expectations for the school district? What do we want to see happen? What level of quality do we want to have in instruction and learning for the investment that we make? And obviously there is a correlation. There is a correlation between class sizes and achievement. There is. And if you want to reduce your taxes by a couple of $100, the easiest way to do that is to drive up class sizes. Is it worth it? Well, I guess different people may answer it differently. I think to us, no. The kind of return that we're getting that leads to an impact on property values locally. Anybody who, we don't want anybody to sell their house and move to Florida, but if you ever do, you're going to get a premium on your house in Guilford because it's in Guilford. And the reason is because of the schools, or one of the reasons. There's other reasons, but one of the reasons is the schools. That's a fact any real estate agent will tell you if you have any doubts about that. So we feel very positive about where we are as a district. We recognize the challenges that many people are facing economically. We want to be responsible, but we also want to try to make sure we get it right. And we need the partnership of the community to do that. We rely on more people coming out and supporting the budget at a referendum than don't. And if it doesn't happen, there are impacts. So.
The thing I was going to say before the tape flip was actually that the bonding, first of all, came in, we were able to bond it over 20 years rather than 30.
The high school.
The high school.
The high school bond. The bond is coming in, there's an additional bond that's going to come in, I believe it's on the order of $400,000 that will come in this year to pay for the high school. We're reaching the maximum point on that as far as the increases that we'll then see as the bonding will come off, can come down some. But I think the thing I would say about that is that the community did really come together to pass the high school. It was fantastic to see, personally my children are experiencing it, day to day, and it's a fantastic building. I think it's been a great asset to the community. But we also have to remind the community that, if you come out to support that, we have to support the budgets. It's not a huge amount of money that's being added on a percentage basis, but it is something that adds on top.
It's about 0.5%.
Yeah.
On top of what your actual operating budget is.
Actually, Mr. Bloss, I did want to remind the board, you had a chance to speak with Mr. Gurnham at one of our earlier meetings at Baldwin, but he's here tonight, so if there are questions about the site improvement line or the custodial increase that's in this budget, or we again have the capital request in front of you earlier than we have in the past, Mr. Gurnham can speak to any of those items if there's questions.
Okay. I want to just add one thing about that, what Dr. Moore said, that not only the impact of the going to a 20-year bonding rather than a 30-year bonding. Our original cost projections for the new high school were that we were going to be floating bonds for 30 years, and we we're going to pay off the high school over 30 years at a specific interest rate. Well, because of the way the market has gone and interest rates have gone, we were able to go to 20-year bonds, so it'll be paid off in 20 years at a lower interest rate than what we had projected for the 30-year bonds. So it has the project came in below where we projected it to be at every turn. And so the people that there were people that thought, well, you know, it's never going to work out. The state reimbursement is not going to hold up. It did. The bond rate is not going to hold up. It did. The construction costs are not going to hold up. They did. The schedule is not going to hold up. It did. So we're very positive and very grateful for the community's support on that, and we'd like to obviously see it move into the operating budget as well. So do people have facilities-related questions? We did talk to Mr. Gurnham in some detail at the last meeting, so I don't want you to feel ignored, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, as long as he's here. Let's talk about custodial staffing. How many custodians do you actually have on staff now? Not what was in the budget, but how many do we have on staff?
There are 32 full-time and, 32 members that we have for custodial. The majority of our staff obviously is involved at the high school, where we have 9 full-time staff members there. Unfortunately, when you break it down, and I think I've been through this before, but just to go through it again, to really drill down, although we start with 9 full-time custodians, 2 of those work the days, and they don't clean. So that gets you down to 7 custodians. If you subtract out the lunchtime and the breaks, you technically lose another custodian. So now you're down to 6. We also took on the fitness center, which we are now cleaning. So we reduced our staffing levels because we have somebody working there. So when we get down to it, we really only have 5 people at the high school that are cleaning that entire school. So that's about 43,000 square foot per person on a daily basis. That's a lot of square feet. One thing I didn't put into that number, which is really a drastic piece and reduces that even further, are all the other responsibilities that custodians have. So whether opening and closing the building, which takes time because we have to walk the entire building to ensure every door is locked. Walking around each morning, picking up trash on the whole facility, throughout the edges of the fields to the courtyards, everything else, that comes into play. School activities. And this is a big one, as we know at the high school, it's the most highly utilized school we have. So the custodians on a nightly basis will clean the cafeteria or the commons area, have an activity and set up for it, then they have to go back and clean it a second time. So although it might be 42,000 square feet per custodian, we're cleaning it multiple times because of the events that happen, whether it's in the gym or theater arts or the other areas. So that number actually goes up significantly. So that's why over the past 4 or 5 years, I've asked for additional staff. Even before we got into the new high school, I warned everybody that this is what I'm going to be asking for, and I'm still here doing it. We started with 2.5. Paul has reduced it down to 1.5. It's presently still in the budget. We really need those additional staff people beyond belief. On top of the new school, again, we gained technically just over 40,000 square feet with this school versus the old school. That's another whole custodian. But we don't have another custodian, so that means we have to find that time somewhere else. And I know you guys have asked, a couple times about things that we are doing or we're not doing, and we do have to short different areas. Whether, one of the spots is cleaning the sinks in the science classrooms. Every science classroom has 6 sinks in it. And there's 2 science labs per pod. So once you start to add that up, that's an enormous amount of sinks that we have to go in and technically clean.
and then you have the counters and everything else. So it all adds up. So there's things of that nature, you know, the bright work and stainless steel. Getting in and doing a full cleaning on the bathroom. We clean the bathrooms, but we could do a much better job. There's a lot of areas we could do a much better job. We come in, I mean, just like looking at this room here, it looks great. We come in, we'll spot vacuum, or we'll spot mop a room. Why? Because that's all we have time for. But when we leave, it will look good. I'll give you that, it will look good. But unfortunately, over time, that's gonna come back. And that's what we don't want. So we don't want to get behind that 8 ball. So that's why I'm asking for these additional people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Cliff? Okay. Public again, let me turn it back to the public. Thank you, Mr. Graham. Anybody else? See, I knew if I kept asking. That's okay.
I mean, I'm always impressed with the faculty and staff, but I have to say that Cliff Gurnham has a job that is like an Atlas sort of feat to take care of the buildings and the square footage. And, you know, I only take care of a household of 4 people and a dog, and I don't know, I don't have, you know, nearly that many sinks or toilets or whatever. Also, they have lunch. I mean, all those kids come in with their dirty boots and they run through the lobby and they eat lunch, they go to, you know, all those classes, and then they're out in the field, and then they're back, and I mean, oh my goodness. And so it is a huge job, and I'm really thankful to our custodians who take care of it, because I think those people who not only take care of the building, but they take care of our kids. They know who the kids are, they talk to the kids, and, you know, they're part of the team, really. So, so I guess I do want to say, when we had the budget referendums fail last year, I was super concerned about the buildings because we did spend an awful lot of time looking at dilapidated things that we have now fixed. And I feel like we are at a good place, and it would really kill me to see us get back there again. So I do think that, as painful as it is, we do need to take care of these, and they are assets to the town. So since everyone's arguing for keeping things in the budget, I guess, I think this is really vital, and it's not one that a lot of people, you know, think a lot about. But, you know, my kids are in Baldwin now, and I know that mechanical system has been ready to go for a long time. And so I think these things are long overdue. And I think that the custodial team is doing a fantastic job, and Cliff is doing a fantastic job, and we should definitely support that effort.
Thank you.
Thank you. As long as Cliff is here, I think it might be helpful if he could kind of explain to the public what's involved with the work that has to be done at Baldwin and why we're requesting the bonding that we are. Because, I mean, people who don't have children at Baldwin may not realize the immediacy of the problem.
Great. So we do have multiple projects coming down the pike. Baldwin has quite a few, unfortunately. Presently, we are scheduled for this upcoming summer to replace half the windows around the school. It will be the northern section where most of the classrooms are. The reason for that, they're the original windows, they're low efficient. So they really have passed their life cycle. So we're looking at replacing those. In the summer of 2018, we'll proceed to do the second half of those windows, which will be the southern section of the building, the gym area, the main office, and the cafeteria. And the reason we're doing that is the cafeteria itself, if you've been there, has large sections of windows on both the north and south side. Those take longer to fabricate. So we're going to bid it out this year, but allow us time to fabricate those materials, to have them on hand before we start the summer of 2018, so that we can expedite getting it done over the summer. So that's the window project, which will run us a little over $2 million. We are going for state reimbursement, so we hope to get about 30% back on the project if everything goes well. And the good news was, as of last Friday, we did receive the okay to go to bid from the state, so by the end of this week, we'll hopefully have that out on the street. Moving forward with the mechanicals, the first part is we are in the process of hiring a firm to come in and evaluate the electrical of the building. Because as we move forward, we know we need to replace a lot of the mechanicals, all the AC, motors, pumps, boilers, things of that nature. So we want to make sure that we have sufficient electrical to accommodate anything that we're going to bring into the school. So we're going to evaluate the existing system and to kind of determine what we need to put in as part of the future projects coming up. So we are also in the process of doing potentially what they call a performance contract. In the performance contract, we've hired Johnson Controls to come in, and they're really evaluating the various systems with us and identifying areas where we can save money and then take that money and put it towards different projects. So if we change out the lighting, I can take the savings from the lights and put in a new boiler. So Baldwin, we're looking at a couple of new boilers, and then there's a lot of air handlers and control work. And controls is another huge issue. If you have students or staff, you'll often hear that we are constantly hot or cold. Part of that reason is we can't control the system as well as we'd like because the system's so antiquated. It's one of the few systems that still use pneumatics or air to control the thermostats, where most of the newer buildings, like the high school, it's all electronic. So it uses an electronic thermostat that goes back to the computer, and we can control everything electronically, and it works much better. So the problem with the pneumatics is once they start to fail and you have leaks, we can't control that temperature like we used to. So there's a lot of work that has to be done there, but we do have some good projects coming down that should resolve those and bring things up to snuff.
And any budget impact of any of those projects, I think, because of the timing of it, would actually not happen until after the projects are done, except for the design, which is a very small piece, and that's actually when the bonding for the high school starts to drop off. So this is not in this year's operating budget. This would probably have a budget impact in 2019, maybe 20, maybe, depending on how quickly it goes. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, well, we have to be here again tomorrow night. Hopefully it'll stop raining. Same time, 7:30. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.